as soon as the gladiators enter the arena, and that's one of the gladiators with the smaller stature perhaps, and that's Diego Maradona in the tunnel about to enter the arena. Now we've got at one end of the stadium the River Plate fans, River Plate being one of the big clubs in Buenos Aires. At the other end of the stadium we have the Boca Juniors fans, and they try to outdo each other by one group shouting louder than the other. That's how it works, and that's how this incredible noise is generated. It's purely spontaneous. There's nothing contrived or orchestrated. There are no marching girls here, nobody conducting. It's all done by the people quite spontaneously. And the two teams come out into the arena. There are the Argentinians with their sky blue, and there goes the confetti. $63,000 fans in a stadium reduced for safety purposes from 80,000. And I have just been hit by one of those toilet rolls, by the way, and it is just absolute pandemonium here. Now we shall see what the reaction will be when the Australians come out onto the park. They have not been sighted as yet, but there it is. That confetti is for the Argentinians. It must be an enormous boost to a player's morale to experience this type of support, but it must be enormous pressure as well. John, we have to consider that also. It's a great boost, but it's also a lot of pressure on these players because they have to respond to this.
Well, they do, and it's apart from qualifying for the World Cup, it is that there has been criticism of Argentina, even when they were winning, that they weren't playing good football. And it's as important to play good football as to win for a country as pedigreed as Argentina is.
Well, Maradona is now acknowledging the adulation. I noticed he's had another crop of his hair. Tony Vidmar and the Australians now warming up and limbering up, getting those muscles loose. A big day for Robert Zabica in the glaring red jersey as the Australian goalkeeper. The referee will be Peter Mikkelsen of Denmark, and the big day for his country, of course, in the World Cup qualifiers also today. But he's rated the #1 in the world by FIFA. Sándor Púl, the Hungarian referee who refereed the first game, is rated #8, by the way. Okay, team lineups on your screen. Let's go now to our commentator, Andy Pascalidis.
Over 400 World Cup qualifying games have been played for USA 94. 23 finalists have been determined. It's down to this final match. Argentina, the two-time world champion, up against Australia, the underdogs. Argentina, of course, victors in 78 and 86. They were the finalists in 1990. That's the team lineup. Two changes. Number 8, Simeone, is in, and Oscar Ruggeri returned. Both of those were suspended for the first game at the Sydney Football Stadium. Diego Armando Maradona, the most capped player in this 11, 82 internationals with 32 goals. His return from a lengthy suspension, well, it was a real test in the first leg in Sydney. They're expecting much more of the same, if not a glorious performance over 90 minutes. The Australian lineup, two changes, of course. Robert Zabica, the number 20, the goalkeeper from Adelaide City, comes in, replacing the injured Mark Bosnich. The other change, Frank Farina, the Strasbourg striker, comes in for the injured Ned Zelic. The eyes of the world on this magnificent River Plate Stadium in Buenos Aires. Qualification for Australia has been made so difficult in this campaign. They finished on top of the Oceania section, defeating New Zealand over 2 legs, then conquering Canada. The test for Robert Zabica, but the test will be a bigger one for Diego Maradona. As we await the kickoff, the referee Peter Mikkelsen gets us underway. We welcome Dubai, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, Indonesia, Hong Kong and New Zealand, who are taking our broadcast. The Socceroos, the underdogs. That tag sits with them perfectly. This scene reminiscent of the 73 qualifier in Tehran in Iran. 110,000 fans there. Australia survived that test, and they went on to qualify for their only ever World Cup appearance in 1974. This time around, Argentina do not have the form on the board. They've only won one of their last 5 games as Batistuta gets the cross in. A comfortable take for Robert Zabica, the 29-year-old goalkeeper who was dropped against New Zealand in favour of Mark Bosnich. The Socceroo camp was that day. And of course, Bosnich rated as one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Zabica, a point to prove. There was the newly promoted player, Ruggeri. On his left is MacAllister. The Red Baron, Robbie Slater, will take the throw in. Tony Vidmar elects to play it short. Slater. Early days yet. The promising one so far for the Socceroos. Argentina ranked 9th in the world. Australia are ranked 61 in the world. In Buenos Aires alone, 11 million people are focused on this 90-minute battle. The captain, Wade. Vidmar's passage was blocked. He'll take the throw in again. It's the 4th time the Socceroos have been 1 game away from qualification for sport's #1 event. Vidmar's ball inside, missed by MacAllister. Arnold. In goes Redondo. And there's the great man himself, Maradona. Rides the challenge of Wade. Redondo, great interception by Farina. Maradona rates himself as 6 out of 10 for fitness, and with this sort of atmosphere and playing on his home turf, he expected to lift himself to at least a performance worthy of an 8 out of 10. Alfio Basile draws back on another cigarette, and he's had thousands of those since that fateful day where they lost 5-0 here against Colombia, which saw Colombia advance, and in the end Argentina almost lost out because Paraguay didn't have the goal difference in their favour. Already we've seen today some notable omissions from next year's World Cup. England, Portugal, France and Denmark bowed out. Switzerland, Holland, the Republic of Ireland, Spain, Romania, Belgium, Bulgaria and Italy advanced. Three minutes up. Aurelio Vidmar on the ball. He's taken the role of Ned Zelic in the centre of the midfield. Maradona rates him as good enough to play in Italy, which is quite a statement. And the free kick against Graham Arnold. Peter Nicholson, the referee, just 35 years of age. He made a name for himself in the 1990 World Cup. Ruggeri across for MacAllister. Slater chases him down. Up there is Balbo. Back in cover, Milan Ivanovic. A long searching ball for Farina, away by Vasquez. The break now coming from Perez, the right midfielder. Now Farina through his Wade. Arnold on his left. Farina. And dispossessed by Redondo, the player of the game for Argentina, I thought, in the first leg. Maradona. MacAllister, who made his debut in Sydney. Redondo. Easy ball for Ruggeri. In goes Vidmar, and Wade, a free kick against Aurelio Vidmar for the challenge on Maradona. Argentina have such a proud record in world football. Aside from winning the World Cup twice, they've won the Copa America a record 15 times. That's the South American Championship. And they were victors in the last 2 campaigns after the World Cup. MacAllister. Back to his keeper, Sergio Goycochea. He had some anxious moments in the first leg in Sydney. Maradona looking for Balbo. Ivanovic there in cover for Australia, who was clipped. Well spotted by the referee. I had a lengthy chat with Milan Ivanovic in the team hotel before the game today. He's played in intimidating places like the San Siro in Italy, but of course this is the biggest game any Australian player will play, despite the fact they have so many that are European-based. There is nothing greater than the World Cup. Slater pulled out of the challenge. Van Vleuk looking for Wade. The captain does the goods there for Rena. Here's Tony Vidmar. Vidmar can't get past MacAllister. Redondo in there, Slater in as well. And away with it is Chamot. Chamot looks up for support. Squeezing it on now, Balbo. Balbo's got Tobin in front of him. Great challenge from Alex Tobin. And there again, Milan Ivanovic. This is a committed display from the Socceroos, not overawed by the intimidating circumstances in River Plate. Slater, the man of the game in the first leg. When he went back to France, he was given the luxury of sitting on the bench to spare him for this game. His French club Lens, proud of his achievements for the green and gold of Australia. Aurelio Vidmar, the top scorer for Waregem in the Belgian League last season. He goes down under the challenge from Balbo. Australia's date with destiny. Perhaps in 84 minutes we'll know whether Australia can do it again. Just over 20 years since they qualified. In fact, it's 20 years and 6 days since the day Jimmy Mackay scored the goal against South Korea. Jim, along with all those 74 veterans, are watching this match eagerly, as are the eyes of the world. Just one spot left for USA 94. Redondo in the centre there. Wade just shadowing him. Simeone across to Maradona. Ivanovic committed to the challenge, and a great one at that. Simeone, the playmaker, while Maradona was suspended. He joined him, in fact, at Sevilla in Spain. Van Vleuk this time the marker on Maradona. Back now for Simeone. Easily away by the Socceroos. Wade, he's got Slater on his right. One for Arnold to chase. In came Chamot. I thought there might have been obstruction there, but play on. Redondo. Maradona taken out this time by Van Vleuk. What a record Maradona has. Total league appearances, 378. He has scored 197 goals, but fitness has been a real worry for him. He's got a sciatic nerve problem in his back. He came through the 90 minutes in Sydney unscathed, although in the days following he was feeling the effects of a torrid 90 minutes. Alfio Basile, the coach, the second man from the right. Some real concern for Maradona. He made his debut for his country in 1977. In the lead up to the first leg against Australia, he'd lost 12 kilograms in 6 weeks. He's called this the game of his life. The Socceroos, you would think, will have a lot to say about that. It's been a bright start from this team, who wasn't given much hope once Argentina failed to advance through the South American phase. Serena back. He was looking for Van Vleuk. Balbo inside for Maradona. Oh, that's a great pass. Ivanovic. And typical of Milan Ivanovic, in great form since he was promoted against Canada, Milan Ivanovic. Balbo again shadowed by Mehmet Jurakovic. Maradona goes in. There's Perez. He can't get past Van Vleuk, and it's a throw-in for Australia. The Socceroos have spent just 3 days here in Buenos Aires after an 11-day camp in Chile. It was a good move by Eddie Thompson. But the way this game has started, it's not according to the script. Well, if you can call it a script. Eddie Thompson was expecting a barrage of pressure from the Argentinians, but that has not been the case. Vidmar goes long for Farina. Farina will take them on, no doubt. And no power there to test Goycochea. Flag up for offside against Arnold. Just over 10 minutes into the game, Farina. Arnold, the man in the middle, offside. This River Plate Stadium makes a State of Origin rugby league game really look like a Sunday picnic. 63,000 screaming Argentinian fans trying to lift the spirits of this great soccer nation. Who could have predicted that it would come down to this? Australia playing what many consider to be a third world nation, Argentina rather, playing a third world nation in Australia. But their results have been outstanding at under-17 youth and Olympic level. And Balbo! The chance of the game. And he wasn't offside. The Australians unimpressed with the linesman, but that should have been a goal. 12 minutes into the game, Argentina miss out on breaking the deadlock. An amazing miss in the end, Balbo. Have a guess who crossed the ball in? Maradona. In fact, it was Batistuta. Maradona to Batistuta, their top scorer. It should have been the goal. And really a lucky escape for the Socceroos. The first opportunity for Argentina, and that was exactly the case in the first leg in Sydney. They had one chance in the first half. Maradona crossed it to Balbo, and he put away a header in a similar position. And Vidmar pulled up for not taking the throw in the right place. An elementary mistake. MacAllister, Maradona back. Farina with a bit of room, heads it on for Slater. Slater tripped. The man they rated as the best player on the park, both the Argentinian and Australian camps. Reserves from the left, Schwarzer, Polak, Lazaridis, Veart, and big Dominic Longo. Tony Vidmar. By MacAllister. And a free kick for Australia. Batistuta and Tobin. That'll be a familiar story today. Tobin had an outstanding game in Sydney. Aurelio Vidmar, who scored the equaliser, playing a much different role today. Maradona held on to by Tony Vidmar. He's used to that sort of treatment, no doubt. Back home in Argentina, playing for Newell's Old Boys. Redondo is cutting back inside of Aurelio Vidmar. Redondo with a flaunt run. Batistuta is in there. Up goes Vidmar. Now Farina. That's cool play. Slater. For Arnold, throw in for the Socceroos. 15 minutes almost up, no score here. And still he got away with it, although Slater had put in a bit of a body check on MacAllister. Paul Wade, a record 65th appearance. That's a national record in Australia, eclipsing Peter Wilson's record of 64 caps, the 1974 World Cup captain, of course. MacAllister got the best of clearances straight to Vidmar. He's got his brother Tony on his right. Slater with a good run. And still Slater might get there, not this time though. MacAllister, a long clearance, just to take the pressure off the Argentinian defence. Talking about the Argentinian defence, they have conceded 10 goals now in 7 qualifying games. They've won 3 games, they've drawn 2, but they've lost 2. And more significantly, they've only won 1 of their last 5 games. After going through an unbeaten streak of 33 games, many people, many soccer critics, have touted Argentina as one of the favourites for next year's World Cup, but they still have to do the job here. Ivanovic away. The clearance by Vasquez went straight to Arnold. Arnold, can Arnold go on with it? He was tripped, was he? No. Yes, the referee spotted it, held back, and he was on his way to goal. That really should be a booking. That's what they're arguing there. There was no doubt that Arnold was on a clear passage towards goal. Farina argues it's a yellow card against Ruggeri. Well, Arnold had beaten well, he grabbed him there, and in other cases around the world, that could have been a red card. But in the 17th minute, Oscar Ruggeri, who was suspended from the first leg, he gets booked. But it was all really a clumsy clearance by Vasquez. Arnold on his way. This is a great position for the Socceroos. 17 minutes up. Aurelio Vidmar, Slater and Van Vleut. Referee Peter Mickelson happy with the wall. Slater might try it from here. Or will it be Vidmar? In comes Vidmar. Just getting underneath it a bit too much. It was well worth a try. So a chance at either end. Aurelio Vidmar, such a sensation in Belgium. He's already scored 2 goals in this World Cup campaign. A goal against New Zealand in Melbourne. That really broke New Zealand back. And of course, the equaliser after his brother Tony had set him up, Ivanovic. You can see the heavy conditions out there. That part of the pitch has been re-turfed after 2 rock concerts, including one by Madonna here a couple of weeks ago. In goes Tony Vidmar. Perez. Batistuta. Wade back there for Australia. Farina. It looks like, well, it certainly appeared that he was taken out. Oscar Ruggeri will be cautious from here on. Another booking for him. He'll be sent off. Chamot inside, Maradona, play on, the ball too strong for Batistuta. Zabica's only had really one thing to do in this game. He took a high cross early on. But Australia are matching Argentina once again. This is Australia's 66th World Cup match. They've won 31 games, they've drawn 20, they've lost 14. This is Argentina's 79th, but overall, Argentina are playing their 686th international against Australia's 277th appearance. That tells you about the pedigree of this soccer nation. The game introduced here back in the 1860s by an English school teacher. And England, of course, earlier today bowing out. Redondo. Chamot. There's certainly been a few fouls in this game. The Argentinians have been on the receiving end of more than the Australians. There's been 7 fouls committed by the Socceroos as against 5 by Argentina. This is the 4th time the countries have met at A level Back in 1988, Australia defeated Argentina, who were the world champions at that stage. They didn't have their number one side out there in Sydney, but Australia were victorious by 4 goals to 1. And Paul Wade, a memorable day for the Socceroo captain. He scored. This time Peter Mickelson allows the officials to come on and check that back in 1992, Argentina won at the same stadium, 2 goals to 0, with Batistuta scoring both goals. Chamot down at the moment, the Foggia defender, his team, sitting around the mid-table position in Serie A in Italy on 10 points. He went to Italy 6 years ago to try and break through, and he's finally done it there. 24 years of age. He made his debut against Australia in Sydney, as did Hugo Perez and Carlos MacAllister. It's now Sergio Vasquez. Looking long for Maradona, Wade out jumps. And now there's a bit of space, and the shot there by Perez was blocked by Jurakovic. Down goes Balbo. No thoughts there of a foul. And the lone man up front, Graham Arnold. Australia playing with a packed midfield. The 2 wide players, of course, Tony Vidmar and Jason Van Blurk. The markers, Tobin and Jurakovic, with Ivanovic sweeping. If it stays at 0-0 after 90 minutes, Argentina will qualify on the away goals rule. Slater hasn't seen too much of the ball. And look at this, Maradona onside. And Jurakovic dropping back and connecting. And a booking against Mehmet Jurakovic, the second of the game. Argentina's turn. Team worth around $100 million. Australia's value around 10 million. Maradona. Up goes Tobin. Van Blurk on for Wade. In there was Chamot. And Perez tried his best, but it wasn't enough. Ruggeri and Simeone, the players who came back from suspension today, the only survivors from that side that played against Australia in '88. Paul Wade and Graham Arnold and Frank Farina were starters in that game, with Slater on the bench. Now Sergio Goycochea had to come out. He found Balbo. Redondo to the captain, Maradona. Redondo. Great performance in the first leg. Gifted midfielder, MacAllister inside. And now the pressure's on. Chasing Van Blurk, and a hasty clearance by Vasquez. Australia looking the part on the quick counter. Midway through this first half, it's still 0-0. Farina can't go through 3 of them this time. Redondo. There's movements up front between Balbo and Batistuta, but it's with Simeone at the moment. He was taken out by Vidmar. That'll be a yellow, the 3rd of the game. Aurelio Vidmar in the book. Remembering, of course, any yellow cards accrued through the campaign will be wiped away after this match. They'll start fresh again in the World Cup next year. And more importantly, Ruggeri, Jurakovic and Aurelio Vidmar cannot afford to be booked again. Alfio Basile former national player, a tough defender. He was coached, in fact, at club level by a former coach, Menotti, the man who led Argentina through a great period in the late 70s, early 80s. Who else but Maradona to take the free kick? And by Perez. And headed away by Van Bloek, it looked like. Here's Redondo, tagged by Vidmar. Vidmar wins the duel. It's a throw-in. Argentina's way, Carlos MacAllister. Away by Mehmet. There's Aurelio Vidmar. Made his debut for his country on his 21st birthday back in 1988. The key man in this Socceroo midfield. MacAllister, strong performances from him. Saw him promoted in this series. Away by Slater, Wade in there. Now Tony Vidmar, Ivanovic. There's Arnold, finding his man in Wade. This is good possessional play by Australia. Wade inside, trying to squeeze it onto Slater. Slater went down in the back play. He looked up at the referee. Here's Redondo. Chamot. Well, there's some space in the midfield again. They've got to close up in the centre of the midfield. Here comes Perez. Not enough power. He should have done a bit more with that. Hugo Perez, he could have scored on his second appearance for his country. No threat in the end for Robert Zabica. That's the second good opportunity for Argentina. Well, up and down, it was Tony Vidmar. And it looks like he's in a lot of bother clutching that left arm, but he's up again. Ivanovic has come out of the centre of the defence. 9 fouls by the Socceroos, and this time it's Ivanovic in the book. The physical tactics are starting to tell now. 3 Socceroos have been booked in the last 5 minutes. Jurakovic, Aurelio Vidmar and Ivanovic. And for our viewers in the likes of Dubai, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, Indonesia, Hong Kong and New Zealand, I'm sure that you would have noticed what many would consider perhaps unfamiliar Australian names, but you look at this lineup, you have players who were born in England, players of Italian background, Dutch, Serbian and Greek, and it goes on. But at the moment, it was Argentina with the pressure. Such a multicultural background, although I understand the satellite has dropped in Sydney, but it's back on again. Here's Arnold. Born and bred in Australia, Slater, born in Liverpool, England. MacAllister, a man of Irish background. Ivanovic, formerly with the great club Red Star, playing it safe. The Socceroo defence is reorganising again. The danger period, you could say, the last 15 before the break. MacAllister, a lot of the players come through this left side. Away by Tobin, but straight to Maradona. Batistuta back to Maradona. Maradona looking for Balbo. Balbo's through. He should score. Oh, that's such a defending from Jurakovic. Mehmet Jurakovic, the hero for the Socceroos. Balbo knows he should have scored. Maradona was the key here. The 1-2. Balbo was on his way. He went past Jurakovic. He went past the keeper. And Mehmet Jurakovic, what a clearance indeed. Australia saved yet again, this time Jurakovic. As I was saying, this is the danger zone. Australia are hanging on, the underdogs against the mighty Argentina. It falls now for Batistuta. The header, the save of brilliance from Zabica. Oscar Ruggeri with the header. And Zabica with a world-class save. The short corner for Maradona. He looked for the near post. It came in, it was headed away by Tobin. Batistuta with a shot, miscuing, and Ruggeri. What a save from Zabica. His family, his fans, his teammates from Adelaide City will be jumping up for joy, no doubts about that. Although he did have cover in Jurakovic, but he didn't know that. Two chances for Argentina, two chances they normally take. Zabica comes and takes it with a second attempt. First it was Balbo, and then it was Oscar Ruggeri. No goals yet. 13 and a half minutes of normal time in this first half. Australia, they have been fortunate. They haven't conceded the goal as Farina went down under the challenge of MacAllister. And Vidmar goes down. Play on. Simeone was the man across. First Farina went down the box, and then it was Tony Vidmar. They've got to be composed at the back now, but here's Slater. No support there. He waits for the midfielders to come through. Redondo, back for Ruggeri. Again, Simeone with room in the middle. The overlapping defender, Chamot. Balbo, now Balbo, and blocked by Zabica. Two critical saves from Robert Zabica have kept Australia in the game. Balbo with his second opportunity in the last 3 minutes. By Van Blurk. Slater. Inside Ivanovic. Back for Slater. Good possessional play from the Socceroos. Can they counter quickly here? An Australian throw in. Well, there's some real trouble and concern here for Perez. A bit of blood there in the clash with Robbie Slater. Slater, good sportsmanship from the Australian. Great story came out of the first leg on their way back to Argentina. Both teams were on the same plane, and the Socceroos were fortunate enough to get some autographs, particularly from Maradona, and some photos. That's the sort of respect they have for this team. But Perez in a lot of bother at the moment. It's been all Argentina in this last 5 or 6 minutes. But the Socceroos, with some stout defending, some exceptional goalkeeping, have kept it at 0-0. Perez has to go off. Too much blood out of that nose. He's been in pretty good form for Independiente. He's scored 7 goals this season. He had a chance in the 28th minute. Didn't bore fruition. Farina, he's done a fair bit of running. Perez back into the cauldron of the Estadio Monumental. 63,000 Argentinians clamouring for a result here for their country. Van Blurk. near post his way, that's who he'll look for. There's Farina, through for Van Blerk, and a corner kick. It came off Chamot. Can Australia manufacture anything here? The first corner for the Socceroos. It's taken them 36 minutes almost to do it. The Robbie Slater in-swinger. At the near post, Batistuta. Ivanovic. Good forceful header. Offside flag is up though. And just in case you haven't heard the results from this morning's other World Cup qualifiers, Malta 0, Scotland 2, Switzerland 4, Estonia 0, Switzerland advance. Poland 1, Holland 3, Holland are through. San Marino 1, England 7, England out. Northern Ireland 1, Republic of Ireland 1, Republic of Ireland are through. Spain 1, Denmark 0. Spain are through, Denmark are out. Wales 1, Romania 2, Romania advance. Belgium 0, Czechoslovakia 0. Belgium are through. France 1, Bulgaria 2, France are out. Greece and Russia 1-0, Greece are through. And Italy have taken the other spots after defeating Portugal. Portugal are out, Italy victorious 1-0. It's down to this final game. Argentina, Australia. No goals yet. Argentina have looked the part. Zabica with 2 magnificent saves. And a handball against Aurelio Vidmar. One of 4 players booked. Physical tactics from the Socceroos early. Reminding me of the days in the early 80s. Where Australia had a lot of tough, tenacious defenders. A well-organised defensive system in those times. But this side, there's a more offensive look about it. But they're playing with a lone man, Graham Arnold, the number 9. The play has been halted because of a late tackle. And this is what the Australians are arguing about. They've been booked on 3 occasions. And you can see Eddie Thompson in the background up off the bench. Peru began the campaign with a 1-0 victory. Rather, Argentina defeated Peru 1-0. And Argentina defeated Paraguay 3-1, then they fell to Colombia 2-1. They defeated Peru 2-1. They drew against Paraguay, then they lost 5-0 here against Colombia before drawing against the Socceroos 1-1. Ivanovic again, he's given it away to Batistuta. Here's Maradona. Redondo. Ruggeri. Of Redondo, but the class now of Farina. Farina, will he take him on? He will, and a body check. That should be a booking, surely. A blatant body check. The yellow comes straight out against Vasquez. And again, when Australia have looked in promising positions, they've been fouled at the edge of that area. 5 yellow cards in this first half. It hasn't been a game really for the purist, but this is World Cup football. Just over 5 minutes left of normal time in this first half. Can Australia do it here? This time it's Robbie Slater. Is it 10 yards? The wall. Slater. Not a bad idea. But again, a similar one to Aurelio Vidmar's free kick. Slater played such an offensive game in the first leg. He's had to do a bit more defending this time around, but he has covered a lot of ground. Once he gets involved in those attacking thrusts, you just sense that Australia might be able to achieve something in Argentina's defensive third. Ivanovic away, again it's Arnold up with Ruggeri. Redondo across, and again a hasty clearance. Farina couldn't control it. Chamot. Back for Redondo, a key man. Ivanovic dispossessing Chamot. He was fouled at the edge there. Not really a bookable offence. The referee has been very firm with his decisions. Zabica. Up goes Arnold. MacAllister. Batistuta and Tobin. And now Aurelio Vidmar, the pressure. But it also came from Argentina. Chamot inside. Simeone. Maradona. And a great challenge from Graham Arnold. Slater, his former club teammate at Sydney, Croatia in the 80s. Slater chases again. And good covering work at the back by Chamot. That's Sergio Vasquez. Hasn't had too much to do so far. They're looking for Batistuta, away by Tobin. Van Blurk. His father, a former Australian representative, played in the first World Cup match back in '65. Maradona was impressed with the form of Van Blurk in that first game as well. Of course, the Socceroos have been forced to play a more defensive game. Wade collided with Maradona, the referee. Didn't see a foul in that one. It looked unintentional. Here's Farina. Back inside for Tony Vidmar. Now, Tony Vidmar was just put off there by Redondo. Redondo did enough at the edge of the area. Jurakovic, he loves pushing forward. Arnold tried to thread it through there for Van Blurk. Covering on the right side, Hugo Perez. Redondo has seen so much of the ball today. Simeone goes down under the challenge from Tobin. One minute and 30 seconds of normal time left in this half. There would be, I would think, about 2 minutes of stoppages. Wide of the mark. No threat this time for Robert Zabica. And again it was Hugo Perez. Zabica will just milk a bit of time here. He'll be a relieved man at the half-time break, but a proud man at that. He's made two very, very important saves that keep Australia's hopes alive. Batistuta. Elbow was inside. It's with Perez, interception by Arnold. Arnold's done a lot of work today. The lone man up front, Vidmar. Out of play. Arnold a big hasty clearance. Goycochea didn't want to take it on the full, understandably. 45 minutes up in the stoppages. Again, I remind you, if it stays at 0-0, Argentina advance. A timely header by Tobin, rather. It's Wade there now. Australia must settle themselves at the back. They've stood the test of nerves. This intimidating crowd has not overawed them too much. Zabica, I thought, should have come. Aurelio Vidmar headed it away. Maradona claims a handball, not given. And now the shot was wide, and it would have been a travesty of justice if Simeone had scored here. Just a few moments before that there, Maradona handled the ball, and the shot by Simeone wasn't too far away. But again, it's Maradona involved, and Simeone wide of the mark. You recall the Hand of God goal, the well-documented one in Mexico during the 1986 World Cup. A minute and a half of stoppages. No goals yet. And Wade. This time it's Perez on the receiving end. Already 5 yellow cards, 3 against the Socceroos and 2 against Argentina. Chamot. Ruggeri. He hasn't been tested as Batistuta came through, and Zabica quickly off his line. And interesting story with Robert Zabica. He was a former grade cricketer in Perth and played with the likes of Dennis Lilly, an opening bowler. He had a choice between cricket and soccer, and he's made the right choice. The chance to play in the World Cup, the ultimate sporting contest, next to the Olympics, I would think. But a good half for Australia. They survived the test. 0-0 at the River Plate Stadium. All eagerly awaiting the next 45 minutes, as are millions around the world. Will Argentina go on to qualify for yet another World Cup? Or will the underdogs from Australia upset the plans of this outstanding soccer nation? One man who has upset the plans was the goalkeeper Robert Zabica, and you'll expect to see an invigorating display from the Lens midfielder Robbie Slater, who has been in outstanding form in France. Not surprisingly, the Argentinians are waiting until the last moment to come out onto the pitch here. Australia can be proud of their achievements in the first half. They had 2 good runs towards that goal area where they were obstructed in healthy positions. The defensive work, particularly the clearance by Jurakovic, the work of Ivanovic and Tobin, and not forgetting Robert Zabica with 2 magnificent saves. They're not daunted, not intimidated by this big crowd, and they've got every reason to be delighted with their performance so far. Just one area where I think they have to work on: they're giving their opponents a bit too much room in the midfield, and that's where Argentina have taken advantage. They've broken quickly, but they don't have the desired results on the board as yet. Argentina's first World Cup game was back in July 1930 in the inaugural World Cup in Uruguay. They beat France 1-0 that day, of course. The French team bowed out in stunning fashion earlier today, losing 2-1 to Bulgaria. The goal was scored in the last minute of the game. But that's the beauty of the World Cup and the world game now. The underdogs, the minnows, the so-called third world nations, are improving at such a rate. And that hasn't escaped Diego Maradona, who came out praising the Socceroos after their performance in the first leg. There was a touch of confidence from Argentina, perhaps a little bit of arrogance, but there is total respect now. Sergio Goycochea waves to the fans here. And no doubt he'd be hoping they'd lift and inspire the local team, as the Danish referee Peter Mikkelsen gets us away, and he'd be a disappointed man after the European champions lost earlier today and bowed out, and they had only conceded 2 goals in their World Cup campaign. They'd suffered their first loss. It appears that there are no changes to either side. As Farina goes in, it looked like dangerous play, but the referee allows play to go on. Redondo, who had ignored offers to move to the likes of Juventus and Lazio, deciding to stay in Spain with Tenerife, who were coached by a former Argentine great, Valdano. Here's Aurelio Vidmar ahead of Batistuta. Slater leaving it for Wade. Tony Vidmar, the younger brother. Slater. MacAllister behind him. Good cut-out work by MacAllister. Here's Maradona, a familiar shadow in his opposite, Paul Wade. Tobin comes through on Batistuta. The Argentinians not impressed. Van Blurk, Farina. He goes down in the challenge from Chamot, it appeared, or Perez. Here's Maradona, Redondo. Slater comes across, and Maradona still found his man, but it's with Slater. And Slater just overstepping the mark when it looked promising for the Socceroos. MacAllister. Simeone will slow it down. In ahead of Balbo was Jurakovic, but it went straight to Redondo, and Perez on now for Chamot. And yet again, Milan Ivanovic. Chamot back for Perez. Redondo squeezing it on now for Simeone. And it wasn't the best of passes from a man who we expect a bit more from. Four survivors from that World Cup of 1990. Argentina, of course, they lost the final against Germany. And back there covering Sergio Vasquez and Batistuta. Although Van Blurk was there and he's down at the moment. That challenge for possession. He's walking gingerly. Here's Redondo. Again, Wade. Wade has won a lot of possession. He's fought hard, remembering, of course, he has the job of tagging Diego Maradona. Vasquez should have been intercepted by Farina. And now it's Wade committing the foul on Maradona. Wade away. Man who was born in England, he came out here as a young boy of just 11 years of age, and who would have thought in the streets of Melbourne he'd be here at the River Plate Stadium playing against one of the greatest soccer nations in the world. Simeone, mesmerising work there. Redondo. MacAllister again, the long searching ball. Van Blurk deflecting straight to Simeone. In goes Van Blurk. Maradona. This is great work from Argentina. The long ball across, though, was way too deep from Chamot. And Zabica will be relieved. You can feel the nerves, the tension. Australia can advance to the World Cup, it would rank as one of the biggest upsets. Redondo. Ruggeri. Now Simeone. Batistuta. Maradona. And again Simeone. It looked like he was climbing on Ivanovic as he tried to get through. The foul will go against, it appears, Milan Ivanovic. Well, first impressions before this other incident, but first up it appeared was with Simeone trying to get past Ivanovic. He was holding on. But yet another intriguing position for Argentina. Maradona with a free kick. And the free header. Yet another chance goes by. It looked like it might have been Simeone. Simeone wide. They can't afford to miss opportunities like they have created in this game. Australia are the sort of side that can turn around and punish a side. They already know their fighting skill and temperament. Australia were down in the first leg, but they came back and equalised within 5 minutes. But Maradona, his hard work didn't come off in the end. MacAllister. On by Batistuta. Maradona, Batistuta. Too many Australians back there. Arnold. A long searching ball, no one up there. That's the area of this stadium that had to be relayed after those rock concerts. Which is a real disappointment considering the importance of this World Cup tie. MacAllister, an elementary mistake. Slater. Back there was Tony Vidmar. The back pass ruled into effect now. Zabica. Australia are matching the Argentinians. Perhaps not in the opportunity sense. The attempts on the Australian goal now numbering 6, while Australia have had 2 shots. Van Blurk, on by Arnold. Surely there was climbing on Farina there by Vasquez. Jason Van Blurk, one of a number based in Europe. He plays with the Go Ahead Eagles club. Scored 2 goals on debut against Indonesia B back in 1990. Van Blurk will take the free kick. Keeper waits eagerly. Tony Vidmar. He's got the long throw. Slater. Slater surrounded by 4 Argentinians. And Redondo has won a free kick. The referee, Peter Mickelson, ruling that Slater had committed a foul. The Australian players on a great incentive if they can qualify for next year's World Cup. They stand to earn at least $30,000 for each player. And if Argentina failed to qualify, it would cost their country millions. Australia's performances have been well documented at youth levels. Semi-finalists at the last 2 World Youth Championships, semi-finalists last year at the Olympics, and 2 quarter-final appearances in the last 2 World Under-17 Championships. But so much hinges on the remaining part of this game. 10 minutes into this second half. Slater, can he go past Redondo? No, not this time. Redondo has been behind the pick of the Argentinian side. Vidmar. The style of game hasn't suited Vidmar, although he's been operating a bit wider. Here's Farina. Frank Farina looks up. Tony Vidmar. And that's much more better from the Socceroos. A good leader. Farina very unselfish when you expected he might have had a shot at goal. The setup for Tony Vidmar. And that's more impressive from the Australian Socceroos. They've got everything to play for. Argentina prepared really to stay at 0-0. That'll be enough for them. You just wonder when the Socceroos will throw more men forward and perhaps introduce one of the attacking players from the bench. Socceroo coach Eddie Thompson is not panicking at this stage. Wade. Farina chasing. As expected, he's moved up front, MacAllister. Still MacAllister gets away from Farina and Slater. Vidmar, it came off him in the end. Over 400 World Cup qualifiers have been played in this campaign. Campaign which began 2 years ago. It began for Australia in the Solomon Islands in 1992. And it will finish here in Buenos Aires. And again the numbers back there, Van Bloof. Simeone with a great steal. Perez inside is Batistuta, handball. A handball first against Batistuta and then against Jurakovic. The referee spotting a first infringement. And that'll be a relief for the Australians. You'll see here Batistuta and then Jurakovic. But Batistuta was left free. Redondo. Balbo dropping back now. Hugo Perez. Van Bloof came in. Remember, there was 5 yellow cards in the first half. None in the second so far. Vasquez. Zabica with a good, confident take. The keeper who was brought up in Perth before switching across to Adelaide City. And he's playing in his 26th international. Away by Chamot. Ivanovic there yet again. Tony Vidmar. Had a stint with Ecuador in Belgium, came back home to Adelaide City. Wouldn't surprise if he goes back and tries his luck in Europe in the next 6 months. He acknowledges the mistake there. Simeone has got a bit of a back problem. He had a stint in Italy a couple of seasons ago. Redondo. Perez. Batistuta and Tobin. Batistuta scored 2 goals at this end, and now it's Simone's ball. It's a deflection. Tragedy for Australia. Batistuta's cross has taken a wicked deflection, and Argentina take the lead. 14 minutes into the second half. It really came out of nothing. Tobin was jockeying. He was tagging Batistuta. He came to the byline. And as soon as that cross deflected off Alex Tobin, it threw Robert Zabica. It really affected the angles that the goalkeeper had to cover. And Argentina lead. Australia, who had played so well. And you can't blame the keeper for that. It's just one of those things that happens but sadly for the Socceroos, it has come at the wrong time. And in the end, it took a deflection and it bounced in off that far post. But if it stays at 1-0, what a way to bow out of the World Cup. Australia have to score to send the match into extra time, or if they could do what many consider the impossible, come back and score two. They have to regain their composure. They have to start all over again. And another goal at 1-1 will force it to extra time. There's 30 minutes left. Plenty of time to do what many consider the impossible. The Australian dream hasn't been shattered in such a cruel fashion. They've got to pick up the tempo. They've got to lift up their performance. They came from behind in Sydney, but this is a different atmosphere, a different place. Argentina buoyed by the chants and the cheers of the 63,000, as you can hear. How disappointing, particularly for Alex Tobin. He's been a fine campaigner for the Socceroos since he made his debut in '86. He was one of the outstanding players in Sydney. He kept close tabs on Batistuta. Batistuta's cross took such a cruel deflection. Maradona goes down. And what you'll find now is that Argentina will try to kill off the game. They'll try to take as much time as possible. This will be a familiar sight. In Australia, scenes like this, you can only speculate, really. There was almost 44,000 at the Sydney Football Stadium. But although it's around 63,000 here, it's more like 120,000. It's so intimidating. It's a real test now for the Socceroos, the gallant Socceroos. They've faced some real tests in the past. This is the fourth time they've come to within one game of qualifying for the World Cup. But this is the biggest game in Australian soccer history. Away by Ruggeri. And many thought should have been sent off for that blatant body check on Graham Arnold. Arnold was on his way. Ruggeri was the last man. He only got a yellow, and Australia didn't get the send-off or the goal they would have desired. Eddie Thompson, you can see him right up there talking to Van Bleur. He'll have to bring on an attacking player. And you might expect the change being made now. Carl Veart, the Adelaide City connection, comes on for another Adelaide City player in Tony Vidmar. A tactical change. Defender out, an attacker on. Vidmar, a good pedigree. He recently had trials with Everton in the English Premier League. There's talk of him going back there and signing up later this year, but Veart has scored 5 goals in 8 international appearances, and they would dearly love to see him score his 6th. Slater, a Blatant foul. No sign of a booking. Veart is the player on. The Slater free kick. And this time it could have been another one at the other end as Goycochea got across. It came off Simeone. And that would have been fair, particularly if you're an Australian supporter. Goycochea with a telling save. At the edge of the area, Slater. They're offside at the moment. The flag's up though, and it won't stand. Paul Wade caught in an offside position. But this is great work from Australia to come back. Wade, you can see clearly offside. But you can see the character, the fighting skills, the tenacity of this outstanding side. Goycochea has left his mark on the game. Veart, a strong, direct runner, a real goal poacher, and he has a never-say-die attitude. Slater again. Simeone. And no sign of a yellow card, which I suppose is a little surprising considering the cards that were shown in the first half. Midway through this second half. The clock now is starting to go against the Australian team. The ball inside, and the touch, and away by Chamot. And Argentina survive. And yet another escape at the Argentinian end. Anything could have happened. You can see the relief on the face of Sergio Goycochea. Slater's free kick. It went deep. Ruggeri, it looked like, had a bit of a body check on Wade. The ball inside. MacAllister had bounced off one of the Socceroos in the middle. It looked like it might have been Veart. And an escape for Argentina. 22 minutes into this second half. Slater. They've got to see him more involved. Through comes Goycochea, and the keeper was off his line, Veart. And that'll probably be an Argentinian throw. But you can tell the change has worked to perfection. And now another change. Gustavo Zapata will be coming in soon. No substitutions made by Argentina. They'll bring on the midfielder to bottle up the likes of Slater, Vidmar, Farina. Australia have looked the part when they've been able to use the flanks, although they've made a bad mistake there. And so is Batistuta. Ruggeri up. A lot of talk about this Argentinian defence being suspect under pressure. And in the last few moments, they have looked shaky indeed. Slater, MacAllister in front of him. Slater, he goes down. No signs of the whistle from the referee. But this is a courageous comeback from the Socceroos. Ivanovic, his clearance went straight to Redondo. Maradona, he's had a fairly quiet period in the last 10 or 15 minutes. Match fitness has been a real worry for him. He won't be too worried about the free kick. It gives him a bit of time to organise his team. A bit of breathing space. Zapata on. And out of the game, the striker Balbo. Another tactical change. Argentina content with a one-goal lead. The striker goes off. The midfielder comes on. Minutes of normal time remaining in this game. Argentina, the two-time world champion, are ahead. Courtesy of the own goal. Interesting group of supporters amongst this big throng. The likes of Pele, Fidel Castro, who has been promised Diego Maradona's shirt, in fact, and the president, who is a fanatic, a soccer fanatic, Carlos Menem, who has demanded more than anything that his team come out of this game with an impressive result. But in this second half, Australia have matched them, but they haven't been able to turn that into a goal. MacAllister away, Ivanovic forward, Redondo back there. This is much more impressive from Australia, putting the Argentinians, putting them under a real test, closing them down and closing down their space more importantly. Simeone wins the duel with Wade. You can see the commitment from the Australian side. Ivanovic comes out of his sweeper position to try to organise his team. And now that's going to cost them perhaps. No foul given. Back there was Van Blurk. A good clean challenge. The referee right on the spot. Batistuta was looking for Redondo. Jurakovic. Farina can't get there ahead of Simeone. His return from suspension has been an important one, and Simeone with a dangerous two-footed challenge on Vidmar. The referee wants play to continue. Slater runs straight into Simeone. Wade. Too many Argentinian players over there. Maradona inside now. Redondo. Ivanovic. And there's Wade again. Slater. If he can link with Veart, that could be a key. Down goes Farina. Zapata inside. Aurelio Vidmar. Van Blurk. Not too many options ahead of him. Veart inside to Aurelio Vidmar. Jurakovic, he's got a good shot on him. Jurakovic. And just getting underneath it too much. But it was worth it. Australia have got nothing to lose here. But then again, that is a pretty big statement. A World Cup appearance for the game in Australia would lift its profile immensely. We've already seen the changes throughout the world. Countries that have qualified for this World Cup. Who would have expected the likes of Greece, Bolivia, Norway, Bulgaria, Switzerland, these sorts of countries, not denigrating their football ability, but the gaps are being closed. At the moment, Australia have one gap to close. They have to equalise. Farina, Slater. You can see the conditions not really suited to Australia. Maradona. Ivanovic. Australians thought the linesman had signalled in their favour, but the referee, Peter Nicholson, overruled. Gives Maradona a bit of breathing space yet again. It's been a big ask, really, to come back from international soccer wilderness with limited fitness and training. And again, this time Jurakovic and Wade closing Maradona in. Simeone and Maradona. The youngster now getting a great ball across, and Zabica again denying Ruggeri. And Ruggeri hanging on. Zabica keeps Australia in the game. What a comeback from this 29-year-old goalkeeper. I remember having a chat to him in New Zealand. He was disappointed, despondent at being dropped for Mark Bosnich. Not taking away anything from Mark Bosnich's ability, but Zabica was the number one for a long period, and he's proved today how good a goalkeeper he is. Jurakovic away. Australia have had to throw men forward. That's left them a bit short at the back. And Aurelio Vidmar cruelly tackled from behind. Well, the referee has been inconsistent in terms of pulling out the yellow, because we've seen similar challenges already in the game, but no yellow in the second half. 15 minutes left. Redondo, Batistuta inside, Gabriel Batistuta, Redondo, can he go on? Redondo's still in there, but Zabica very alert and quick. Redondo had a magnificent first half, hasn't been as influential in the second, but you can't leave him free. Redondo back again. Batistuta, Slater, Simeone, and Simeone body checks Slater, but the referee's allowed play to go on. Batistuta, no one up there, deflects off Arnold. Zapata in the midfield. Chamot, Van Blok and Perez. In goes Van Blok. That's clever play. Vidmar. The ball players have to get involved. Veart, the direct running from Carl Veart. He goes down. And surely that is a bookable offence. He's on his way to goal. No challenge for the ball by Vasquez. And Mikkelsen has certainly changed his outlook on those sorts of fouls. Australia have 12 and a half minutes of World Cup qualifying football left. The dreams, the hopes of a nation are riding on this one. Graham Arnold, the top scorer of the side. Deflection off the wall, and a hasty clearance in the end by Chamot. Slater hasn't been given the space and room to operate like he had in the first leg. Wade, Farina and MacAllister. Maradona, in goes Slater. Wade back, and it's an Argentina throw. Soccer, a way of life in Argentina, a religion. A World Cup without Argentina, unthinkable 2 months ago. 33 games without defeat until they faced Colombia. Slater, and it just wasn't enough. Vidmar, well, it looked like it was on, and now the danger of the counter. Batistuta, Ivanovic, and Milan Ivanovic saves them again. The experienced sweeper, the Adelaide City connection, Ivanovic, and of course Zabica earlier. Slater, Australia have some space. Slater keeps it in. And the cross, too close to the keeper, and it goes over anyway. But moments earlier, it appeared that perhaps something was on for Arnold, and then for Aurelio Vidmar. That'll be the pattern. They'll kill for time now, Argentina. What else would one expect? Whatever the outcome, the Argentinians know that they've been in a real fight against the Socceroos. And Maradona afforded the luxury of changing into a new pair of shorts. And just as a sidelight to that, Maradona changes his shirt at half-time as well. And in the Sydney match, Argentina swapped some shirts, not all of them, but Maradona gave his shirt to the captain, Paul Wade, for his marking job, and to Robbie Slater. The last 10 minutes. I can imagine how the Australian supporters are feeling right now, at the edge of their seats, wondering, hoping that this impossible dream can come true. Simeone. The interception didn't come off. Hugo Perez. Van Blurk in with a sturdy challenge. Zapata will come over for the free kick. The clock is against Australia. Luck was against Australia. That goal in the 14th minute of the second half, a deflection. And 7 minutes later, it appeared that Australia would level terms after another deflection at the other end. At that time, it was Goycochea diving to his right. Australia will feel very disappointed that Ruggeri wasn't given a red card after a foul on Arnold in the first half. The way the game has been cleaned up around the world by FIFA, it will be interesting to hear what the critics have to say about that. Vidmar, Ivanovic, Jurakovic, Veart. This is the Carl Veart we know. MacAllister away. Wade on for Slater. Australia throwing everything at the Argentinians. Vidmar. Slater, and away by Vasquez. Seven minutes of normal time remaining in this last World Cup qualifier. The 23 nations have already probably booked their tickets to USA 94, the World Cup next year. One place remains. Slater slipping tragically for the Socceroos. Simeone and Jurakovic is looking for Batistuta, and with a block it was Ivanovic, and the yellow card finally comes out. Wade, a typical captain's game. He's worked hard in the midfield. We haven't seen much of Maradona at all in the second half. Simeone had committed a couple of fouls earlier. Australia, a real fight on their hands now. Van Blurk. Perez with him. Throw in for the Socceroos. This could be the end of an era for several of the Australian players, the likes of Arnold, Ivanovic, Zabica, Slater, Farina. This could be their final game for the Socceroos. Wade up again. Vasquez back there. Jurakovic with a switch for Slater, a good idea. Slater, MacAllister ahead of him. Easily away from MacAllister. And intelligent work at the back. It's the second time the ball has hit the back of the Argentinian net. But both times the offside flag has been up. Very disciplined at the back, Argentina. They move out so quickly. In the last 5 minutes, I said it was an end of an era in more ways than one. Australia won't be forced to go through the Oceania section and then play a runner-up from CONCACAF group, the Central and North American group, and then a runner-up from South America. They will go straight into the Asian section. Maradona. Across now for Redondo. A good surging run. Now Maradona looking for Batistuta. Away there by Tobin. Van Blurk. Ruggeri heading away. Aurelio Vidmar. They have to get forward. They've just got to throw everything at them. 3.5 minutes of normal time left. Aurelio Vidmar looking for Slater. There's too much on that pass. A cruel blow for the Socceroos. Wade. Van Blurk on. The long clearance, Ivanovic back there in cover for the Socceroos. Wade. Jurakovic. The keeper comes and takes it there ahead of the challenge of Veart. And Vasquez went up as well. Two and a half minutes remain in this World Cup battle from the Estadio Monumental in Buenos Aires. Argentina ahead by the solitary goal. Australia have come back after it, and there's been two dangerous situations in the Argentinian goal mouth. Argentina's form has dropped markedly in the last couple of months. It hasn't been really a vintage performance tonight, but you must pay credit to the Socceroos. When one expected a barrage of pressure in the first 15 to 30 minutes, they held on. They were resolute in the defence. They made some timely clearances and some telling saves from Zabica. The investment in this team has been fully justified. It's cost anything up to 3 to 4 million this World Cup campaign. Van Blurk. A deflection. He's Arnold and Ruggeri away. No one following through for the Socceroos. Anything could have happened with that deflection. Will there be an element of luck for the Socceroos? A minute of normal time left. They're just hanging on. There'd be at least, I think, 2 to 3 minutes of stoppages. Wade. Now Australia. Farina. That'll deflect for a corner. Can they pull off a dramatic equaliser here? In comes the corner. They're numbering at the back post, and it's gone right over the top. Here's Robbie Slater. Slater turns on Redondo. Slater in the box. The ball back. And the shot just wasn't there for the Socceroos. Everyone back there for Argentina. Australia is throwing everything at them. Alex Tobin, the 27-year-old draftsman, gets it back inside to Jurakovic. Aurelio Vidmar hasn't been the offensive game. He's had to drop back considerably today, but not on. Arnold's up there. Now the shot from Veart, and it wasn't enough. He could have been the hero for Australia. 26 seconds into injury time. Veart, who scored 5 goals in 8 games already for Australia. And he knows perhaps he should have done much better there. Will that be the last chance for the Socceroos? And what a major disappointment. A goal there would have no doubt sent this game into extra time. Luck not on the Australian side. If it stays like this, they'll be celebrating long into the night. The game kicking off at around 9:10 local time. But I'm sure that their performance is not one to be really impressed about. Maradona, his international football career is prolonged. This would have been the end, I would have thought, if Argentina bowed out. With the likes of Goycochea, Vasquez, Maradona, Balbo, would they have kept on going if Argentina had failed here? 2 minutes of extra time added. Argentina in the box seat. Wade hasn't stopped all day. Wade will get in there again. And Maradona giving Wade a bit of treatment that he'd received over the 2 legs. Mutual respect from the 2 captains. Mehmet Jurakovic, who made the position his own with some dramatic performances in this campaign. Robbie Slater, perhaps overall the best player. Australia bow out in such cruel fashion. An own goal in the 59th minute. Relief for Argentina. They march on to fight yet another World Cup tournament next year. Robert Zabica, dejected, disappointed, but one can only be proud of his performance. Argentina did it. They did it the hard way. The Socceroos went to this Estadio Monumental stadium in Buenos Aires. It was like the old days, the Roman times, throwing the wolves or the lions into this cauldron. They can be proud of their achievements. They more than matched their more fancied opponent. But the Argentinian side lived to fight yet another day. There'd be great disappointment around Australia, but they can take heart from this campaign. They won't have to do it the hard way again. They won't have to win Oceania. They won't have to play a runner-up from CONCACAF, and they won't have to play a runner-up from South America. They'll go straight into the Asian phase of qualification for the 1998 World Cup. Maradona, relief more than anything. He's got a bit of work to do before the World Cup next year. He's been out of action for a lengthy period. And on that note, to the viewers through Dubai, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, Indonesia, Hong Kong and New Zealand, we bid you a farewell. The final score here from the Estadio Monumental: Argentina 1, Australia 0.
Well, joyous scenes for Diego Maradona, and he will go down, no doubt, as somebody who very much helped save Argentina's bacon in these World Cup playoffs against Australia. But what a gallant performance by the Australians. How close they came to equalising that unfortunate goal, which will probably go down in the record books as an own goal to Alex Tobin, who otherwise had a champion game. But Johnny Warren's with me now. Johnny, it's been in many ways a tragic situation for us, because it was history repeating itself, and Australia gallant in going down by 1 goal.
Yeah, disappointed, Les, and nowhere near as much as the boys must be. We saw Paul Wade there just metres from us at the end, just not enough strength to kick the ball, but it was a tremendous performance, unfortunately not good enough. And when we sit down and think about this campaign, it will go back to the fact that we still couldn't win at home. It happened to us in 1970, in 86, in 90. We didn't get the result at home, and it was too big a burden to carry. Second half, Argentina, as they did in Sydney, exerted their authority a lot more, but let's give full praise to them, but also to Australia, who exceeded expectations.
Absolutely, and the bookies who put Australia 10-1 against must be hanging their head in shame.
Yeah, and Australia always seems to go out to that type of goal. Alex Tobin goal, we can go back in the history, it was always a lousy goal, if you like, but of course for Argentina it's a great goal, and they are through to the World Cup, which will delight FIFA and no doubt the organisers of USA 94, because it's fair to say they wanted Argentina there and Maradona there.
Now the fans are incredibly buoyant, and they're going to stay in this stadium, I should think, for quite some time, celebrating, as the whole of Buenos Aires and the whole of Argentina will celebrate. It's a very big moment for them, very important. They have only missed out on qualifying for the World Cup twice, the last time back in 1970. Since then, they won the World Championship twice and were runner-up once, of course. So it's very important to them, but important to us also, John, that Australia should travel this far in the first place. And well, once we've gone this far, we could have said, well, enough is enough. We've done our bit. We're still a developing nation, blah, blah, blah. But it could have been so close. It's really the toss of a coin, the spin of the dice.
All that will change, of course, now Australia qualifying through Asia, and that is the just way to go, not to be here in South America.
John, I've got Paul Wade with me, the Australian captain. Wadey, congratulations. You must be a very exhausted man. You fought extremely hard out there, but I tell you what, the example that you showed and the rest of the lads showed out here today has been nothing short of phenomenal.
We knew the job was going to be tough. Forget the crowd, forget the surface. They're a class side, they're a credit to their country. But it just shows you what, when you wear that pull on that green and gold, what we can do. To all the people in Australia, sincerely, I thank you from all the players, for all the faxes, for all the well-wishers. We went out and did it for you as well as for ourselves, and we hope that we haven't let you down, and we'll be coming home with big green and gold hearts. We love you.
Good on you, Wadey. How did you see the game where it transpired that in the end, I mean, it was a very unfortunate goal that sunk us in the end. It could have happened 6 times at the other end towards the latter stages.
Yeah, that's football, isn't it? I mean, they take their chances, and unfortunately we couldn't. There'll be a lot to talk about, I suppose, in future days to come, but no, I thought that both sides applied themselves very well. I thought everybody, around the world got their money's worth. I thought it was thoroughly entertaining football. Diego Maradona showed exactly what he can do when he wants to. Class footballer.
Well, you guys were all pretty well classed as well. I know it's easy for me to say, standing here, I wasn't out there fighting, but I hope there are not too many long faces in the dressing room and in the hotel rooms tonight, because there's plenty still to be joyous about and celebrate even tonight.
Yeah, you're dead right. I think everybody can have a good old drink tonight and just celebrate the fact that we did get that far in a World Cup. The best footballers in the world.
Wadey, thanks very much. On behalf of all Australians, once again, congratulations. Well done. That's Paul Wade, the Australian skipper, who played his heart out today, as he does in every game, of course, but so did the rest of the Australians. We'll take a break here in this unbelievably buoyant River Plate Stadium. Well, when you think about it, it's been a big day here in World Cup football, not just here in Argentina, of course, but right around the world. And the great nations that have fallen, not just today, but up to in these qualifying matches up to today. Countries like Uruguay, just next door here, one of the greats, twice World Cup winners, of course, and France went out today. Denmark, the European champions, went out. England, former world champions, went out as well. Australia almost got there by a whisker, 1 goal. Let's check on the Argentine reaction. Monitoring it for us today has been Orestes Catoros. Orestes, you've been listening and finding out what the Argentinian fans and journalists thought of it today. What did they think?
Well, basically that Argentina still is a Maradona dependent team. Depends so much on Maradona, what can create him, and they're not very happy with the performance of the team. They're happy with Redondo and Simeone, but they believe that Maradona is still the most important piece in the team. They would celebrate tonight, but they still will demand more from Basile in the World Cup.
And their impressions, I dare ask, about Australia's performance today.
Regarding the Australian performance, they're very, very impressed. They saw what exactly won in the Argentinian team, guts. And the Aussies proved to be, a team that can react and can push Argentina toward 1 goal. And the second half, the last 20 minutes, really the performance of the Australians putting Argentina with the heart in their mouth. We were very scary because we were afraid that Australia could even the game.
Did they credit the goal to Balbo, or did they say it was an own goal by Tobin?
Well, they say that it was an own goal, but they credit to Balbo.
Okay, Orestes, thanks very much for your help throughout these series of matches, and thanks for everything. Orestes Catoros. One final comment from you, John, on where we are now in terms of the game's history in our country, where this has taken us and perhaps take us to the future.
It's taken us a step further. It's been proven at youth level, at Olympic level, now at World Cup level. I think the big problem is how we're going to cope with the European-based players. And I think it's obvious that the European boys, their touch has improved immensely from being professional players. I think it's a fact of life. More of our best are going to go there. So how do we have a national team policy with many of our best and most of our best based in Europe?
Okay, John, thanks very much for your help today. And there it is. That's the story from the River Plate Stadium in Buenos Aires. Australia losing by a whisker, 1 goal in the second half after a speculative cross by Abel Balbo, deflected on its way to the goal and looped over the head of the Australian goalkeeper and ended up in the side of the net. That's the story, and that is football, and I suppose that is sport. But that's where we leave you from Buenos Aires, and for now we'd like to thank you for joining us and hand you back to the studio, Andy Pascalidis.